the greatest moment in my life.
Yo, as the cool kids say.
There.
I don't know. I've never been one of the cool kids, mate.
Come on,
Never.
You're still one of the cool kids now.
Actually, we were talking about it earlier, me and the missus, funnily enough. There was an episode of Big Bang on. She watches a lot of Big Bang reruns and stuff, right? Because it's just nonsense telly in the day, isn't it? Watching a pottering around the house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sat there playing three-way chess on his own. The geeky one, the Sheldon, isn't it? Yeah?
Sheldon, yeah.
Yeah, he's invented three-way chess and he's playing on his own. And I sat there and just sort of shrugged and huffed. And went, I remember playing chess on my own.
Wow, you fucking nerd.
Yeah, I did, mate. Honestly, I've said before, when I was
what
like 13,
a start to this show.
when I was like 13, 14, I spent pretty much my whole life. I'd go to school, come home, and if I wasn't going to football training, I'd sit in my bedroom listening to Iron Maiden records and just reading the pamphlets or watching sci-fi or whatever. So I had a nice cool chess set bought for me, a glass chess set, and I used to play chess on my own because no one else wanted to play chess with me.
And now I understand why you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
You basement dweller.
Well, no, I was upstairs.
You attic dweller.
Does that make it better, or is that not really much of a difference? I had the big bedroom, so that was nice.
Wow. Let's get on with the book.
Anyway, it's Monday night. You know what that means. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Si, a Radio Tekkers production. I am Si, who is feeling old, but we'll get into that in a moment. It fits in quite well with our non-wrestling topic. And with me, as always, is the Stone Cold to my not going bold, the HBK to my but I am going grey, a podcaster who is easily the baddest lord on the planet, the podfather himself, Lord Maxie. How are we doing this week, sir?
Kerblam. Yes, I'm doing really well. Been a nice, relaxing weekend. I took a weekend away from creating content. So yeah, we spent some quality time with the missus. I almost had a scare where we thought one of the another grandkid was on its way, but that turned out to be a bit of a bug for the mum. But yeah, it's been a fun weekend.
Hang on. I'm going to need more information there. A bit of a scare that a grandkid was on. What did you not know she was pregnant beforehand? Is it?
No, I was fully aware that she's pregnant, but she's only just over, I think, 6 months or something like that. And on Saturday she was like in pain. So,
I see.
So we thought, oh, good Lord, the baby's on its way, early Christmas present. But yeah, it turned out she just had kidney infection.
That's bad enough, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, not as bad as another girl. That would be batting 0-4 for grandkids. Really? It's going to be 4 girls, yeah. And they are they're terrors. They're absolute terrors.
I got my 3 girls, my 3 daughters, and then my son. The girls, they're all so incredibly different. That's what makes it so interesting, I think. Mm-hmm. You know, and I wouldn't describe any of them as terrors, really, apart from when they've not had much kip, but they take after their mum for that, don't they, Shy? You know?
Well, the 2 older ones that we've got now are both 2 years old, and they've got massive personalities, totally different personalities, but they're in that kind of stage where they're saying words but babbling almost, and I'm convinced that they can talk between themselves because they are experts.
Brilliant.
They're experts at dividing and conquering. They're experts at flanking. So basically, if you think you've got one covered, there's another one attacking from the sides. Yeah, they torment. I'm going grey by the day because of those girls. But they're amazing. I wouldn't have any other
brilliant way. Stuff, innit? Brilliant stuff. Yeah, I've had a bit of an up and down week, mate, I suppose. You know,
well, you were poorly last week.
I was, mate. I was poorly for a little while. I feel like I kind of kicked it now. I feel all right now that the sleepiness and all that was running me down is kind of gone, I guess. I still got a little bit of it. I was in bed fairly early last night. And again, it all kind of ties into our non-wrestling topic about getting old and so on. Because last night, I mean, I had a fridge full of beer. I had the all intense, all my mind was screaming, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to drink my beer, I'm going to play my crappy old computer game that's 20 years old. I'm going to listen to a few podcasts, catch up on a few that I haven't listened to yet. My normal weekly listening, I guess. But it got to about 9:30 and I was doing that again.
Wow.
In the chair. But it comes out of nowhere. That's the thing. It's not like I can feel myself getting more tired. It's like I'm right as rain 1 minute, then the next minute I'm out for the count. You know, I'm ready to go to bed. And I literally went to bed with I can't call it Horlicks because it's the cheap alternative. But I literally went to bed with my laptop has become like my TV in the bedroom. It's got the WWE network on it. It's got BritBox on it, so I can rewatch the old Doctor Who. It's got Netflix on it in case I want to watch something else. I love it. It's like my portable little, I don't know, it's amazing, my little laptop that my wife got me. So I was watching reruns of The Office on Netflix, drinking my malted drink, as it's called on the side of the thing, in bed at 9:30, mate.
You're old. You're very, very old. Aren't you? Yes. And that's probably where the idea for the non-wrestling topic of the week came from.
It kind of did, yes. Also, that ties into it was what happened today, because I was going for my blood test today after being poorly last week or so, wasn't I? And also kind of roped into this as well was I was going to have my hearing tested. I think you.
My good Lord, brilliant! And then your ass out tested and getting your cane and your wheelchair. And
hey, I'll tell you what, I'd be all about those
your Velcro slippers.
The mobility. I got slippers. They're not Velcro, but I got slippers, but they're really warm and comfy. You know. But I got the problem with my slippers, mate, is I got a real bad habit of I don't take the dog out properly anymore because he's an old boy and it affects his hips when it's cold. So he's got an old football or an old boot or something that I throw in the garden, give him a run around. I do that for him once or twice a day. I got a habit when I got my slippers on of forgetting that they're slippers and not shoes, and going out in the garden with a dog and soaking them through.
Oh, so wow.
And that is bad, mate. That's grim, you know.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah, I've kind of been. I say I've noticed that the wife and the kids have noticed before me that the TV keeps getting a bit louder. You know, like the number on the volume when you're turning it up. You know, we tend to have it on. Our house is quite small, as I've said before. So if the kids are around and the animals are doing stuff, and it's me and the wife try to watch something in the day or tea time-ish or whatever,
it's noisy. Yeah,
so the telly's on 30, 31, something like that. Which in our house is like it's probably halfway on the gauge, but it's loud enough for us to hear without being booming and so on. Mm-hmm. Sharon sometimes will go to bed earlier than I, so I then watch my programs, you know, Babe Station or whatever. On
awesome.
Well, Babe Station, I put it down to like 2 or 3 just to be sure I can hear her creaking on the stairs on her way back down. But no. Now, if I'm watching I'm currently watching the TV program Castle, that American cop show.
Okay,
I'm watching a few episodes of that. I used to put that on like 23, something like that, so I wouldn't disturb Sharon.
Incredibly specific.
Yeah, because I want it as loud as I can to hear it, but I don't want to disturb everyone in bed. So 22, 23, that seems all right. You know, that seems to be the sort of stopping point. But then it's like, it's creeping up, mate, and it's creeping up, and it's creeping. I had Doctor Who on last night, and I had it on 42, and I'm like,
wow. I'm
still thinking, I can't hear what she's saying there. You know, and this has been an ongoing thing. And I've got Livy, for example. Livy has her hood done up quite a bit and stuff. If she's talking, I can't hear her. Now, for a long time, I've been assuming she's mumbling into her scarf or mumbling into her hoodie or whatever. And I've gone, what? Liv, I can't bloody hear you, sort of thing. And the wife has had to point out, everyone else can.
This is you problem.
Exactly, mate. And for a long time, I was battling this. I was arguing. I weren't having none of it. But then over the last couple of weeks, it's got worse and worse. So I went to the doctors today to get my ears tested. The big feeling was between members of the family and people who are older than me that would probably know better is that maybe I need it syringed, apparently, or there could be a build-up of wax in my ears that's making it all sound muffled and that. Mm-hmm. So I went along expecting this. And she had this little utensil thing that went in my ear to sort of have a feel around. And this other thing that's got like a light and she looks in your ear with. And she basically turned around to me and said, okay, these are some of the cleanest ears I've ever seen. There's no wax builder.
You are deaf. In fact, she didn't say it. She sign language.
Yeah.
Can you read my lips? You are deaf.
Well, she goes, she said, like, it's almost like you've had your ears cleaned before coming here. She said that they're fine. I can see all the stuff I need to see. The light is hitting certain parts that it's supposed to hit. Apparently, I don't know. And she goes, so in that scenario, it's nothing to do with wax or build-up or anything like that. And if you're legit suffering from things sounding muffled or sounding almost congested, or the issue there is, Mr. Powell, that you're going deaf. And I'm like, what? I'm going, what, actually?
and it wasn't because she was shocked. It was because she couldn't hear that she said he was going deaf.
Hey, what's that you say? You know? No, legit. She said, yeah, and I got to go to the hospital now. I got an appointment going through from the hospital, and apparently I got to sit in this room with a little button, and they're going to shoot off noises, and I got to press the button and I can hear it and all this sort of weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I apparently I'm going deaf, mate. I'm going to need hearing aids. Yeah, thank you very much, Millwall Chris. Did the light just come out the other ear?
I mean,
may well have. I don't know.
I don't want to break the habit of this show by showing you sympathy, so I am just going to mock you for being deaf all the time. So when do you get your hearing aids?
I've got to go for the test first, haven't I? But she was listing things that could affect it, and she was saying, like, why this might have happened. And it's like, oh, you know, do you use your headphones a lot? And I'm thinking, well, I do, of evenings and so on, but I don't have them too loud because I've got the headphones. You don't need it too loud because it's right on top of you anyway. It's,
yeah.
You know, I don't use my headphones at work anymore, and I haven't done for quite a while. And then she asked the I suppose the $1 million question, didn't she? Do you go to many concerts or gigs? And I was like, yeah,
no.
I can't. And it seems that for the last 25 years, I've just been destroying my hearing as well as my waistline and my liver. So,
I mean, it's getting right to the front near the speakers in those mosh pits. Yep, yeah.
It is. I'm walking out of gigs now, and the whistling and the buzzing ain't as bad as it used to be. So I'm guessing that my hearing's just adjusted down to the level it is.
Wow. I mean, I hope everything goes all right, but
so do I, mate. So do I.
I can't say I wouldn't be pleased if you had to rock up with hearing aids, because it's just one more thing I can absolutely ridicule you for.
What absolute shower of shit thing to say. You complete bastard.
But I hope that you don't need them, but I will be kind of pleased if you do.
Anyway,
I promise I won't do things like this, so you can't hear.
I'll just turn you up, mate. I'll just turn you up.
So from next week's episode, what we'll try and do is get the subtitles started, so I can at least listen back to, read back what's happening in the chat. What's
going on, yeah. I'll be about 30 seconds behind everyone else. Speaking of the chat, Magsy, mate, what is going on over there? Who we got coming to join us this evening from the Chain Wrestling family? We've got plenty of the hashtag CWF in the chat. Scottish Danny first in. Hello, sir. Again, he filled in for Tanner this week on a change in attitude recording yesterday, so it was a lot of fun, and he's coming back again for a third session this weekend. So yeah, it's been excellent stuff. Great fun having him on and involved in that. The lovely Mrs. P in the chat. It's Monday, newly appointed mod of the chat as well. Apparently, so behave yourselves. My wife is in charge of the chat room at the moment. Tyler Peters, hello guys. Hello to you, Tyler. Tyler. Sorry to interrupt, Magsy. Tyler was messaging about half an hour before we went live, saying that he's hoping to join us because sometimes this time is difficult for him, so he listens back to the podcast version where possible. So it's brilliant that you managed to join us tonight, Tyler. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you for coming along. And definitely get involved in the chat, sir. Hope you have a fun time watching along with us. Sharon laughing along, probably because of your deafness, and it's good that she spelt it out to show that she's laughing. Connor, hello, Magnus. Hi, hello to you all the way from the opposite side of the pond, Connor. Hope you're doing well. Scottish Danny, hashtag CWF for laugh. Danny, a bit concerning. He grew up on Babe Station. Grew up? Yeah. How early did you have the PIN number off your parents then? that's some janky parenting there down there in the heartlands of Kent. I mean, to be fair though, Danny, anyone who's got like Virgin Media, you just do 1, 2, 3, 4, don't you? Because no one bothers to change the PIN number, do they?
I've never changed mine, so if people want to access my Virgin Media, it's the same PIN number, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just that easy. Millwall Chris in the chat saying his daughter insists that the volume has to be on an odd number. I mean, that's a non-wrestling topic of its very own, like odd foibles and superstitions and rituals like that.
I could feel that on my own, mate. If you remember, I bad my plugs and all that sort of situation is,
Scott said he's wishing you luck for your hearing test. And he's hoping Millwall Chris hoping his wave doesn't echo from his palatial mansions on Bang Bang. Sharon showing off with a spanner in the chat. And Millwall Chris, I know a local lass who was on Babe Station. Brilliant.
I might know her. We may have spoke.
She may owe me money.
I wouldn't have paid that amount of money, mate. That's ridiculous charges. Or so I have heard. Allegedly. Yeah, so the non-wrestling topic this week was all about age, perks to getting older. Pros and cons, I guess, to your current age, getting older, your favorite time of being younger, anything to do with age, anything at all. And we had quite a few responses, Mags, with some very similar answers and some quite out the blue.
We did. We certainly did.
We did indeed. Let me just find the beginning. There we go. Okay. I will do as I normally do and just run through in the order we received them. We had a couple of direct messages as well, which obviously won't be up on the Twitter. I'll try and remember to tell you, Mag, so you don't start looking for them when they're not there. First up, we have at UTT Rob on Twitter, good friend of the show from the awesome UTT podcast. He says here, the best thing about getting older is the first time you don't get ID'd. The worst thing is the last time you get ID'd.
That's when you've gone over that threshold of being old as fuck.
Yeah. I haven't been ID'd for so long. Hardly surprising, really. I suppose I'm 40, but
I think I've only ever been asked for ID one time in my whole life.
Really? Okay.
Going to like pubs and stuff like that. Yeah, I've always managed to avoid being ID'd. Yeah.
Okay. There was one club in Gloucester that we could never get into, and it was like this thing, like every Friday or Saturday, whenever we went out, that was our aim, and we try all sorts, mate. We tried going in one at a time. We tried going in a group. We tried going in with our friends' older brothers to hide us in the pack. So it's all these different tactics to get into this one club. Every single weekend we would get ID'd, get told nope, because I mean ultimately we were like 15, 16, so we shouldn't have been going there anyway. And then we'd all just turn around and go to Casey's anyway, which was a shithole down the road, and let anyone in. And that was like literally every week was that same pattern. Every week.
So I've got a little story. It's related to me in the fact that I was there, but essentially it was I think it was around a Christmas time one time, and me and a lot of our friends and a lot of family had gone out on essentially a pub crawl. We got to this local gay bar called Gaza's Dolls. Such a brilliant atmosphere in there. I used to really enjoy going in there, but everybody got in apart from my wife's sister. Now, she was at the time probably 30.
Okay.
So it was like, wow, you're being ID'd at 30. But the kicker was that her daughter had come out with us as well. And so, no, she must have been older than 30 then, because her daughter was like 17. She didn't get ID'd at all. She was just waved right through, and her mum had to go home and get some ID to come in the pub.
That is awesome. That is brilliant. We had something similar when we went to watch the Champions League final in '99 at this bowling place where we all piled in to drink and watch the game at. I was 18 in '99, so I had mates who were over 18 and under 18. None of my mates got ID'd apart from my sister's chap, who was actually 23. And he had to ring my dad up to go pick ID up and bring it to the place where he couldn't get in. Everyone else who was like 16, 17 got in without a problem. So that was quite annoying at the time, but funny looking back now.
Usually the bars and pubs around Burnley, they tend to, if there's a group of people, they'll ID a few and then it's like we're not adding all the lot of you. So once those first couple pass the test, all the rest get kind of waved through. So
yeah, I get it.
That's how it usually works.
See, that would have been ideal if it was fifth half in Gloucester when we were trying to sneak in. We'd have put the older looking ones at the front and the middle at the end.
And then just the school kids in the uniform at the back. I'm with
exactly.
them.
Yeah. They're my mates. They're my same age as me. Danny in the chat. On Twitter, at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter. The best thing is about getting older. The best thing is learning new things, having new experiences, and making new friends. The worst thing is the strong desire to sleep. Where did this suddenly come from? I'll tell you what.
Yes, sir. Where did this suddenly come from?
Honestly, I 100% get on board with that. Making new friends. I'll be honest with you. I don't like people. Mm-hmm. So making new friends is one that wouldn't naturally jump into my head. But at the same time, in the last 2 years, I suppose I've made friends via Twitter and wrestling, Twitter and yourself, Mags, and so on. So that applies to me as well, I guess, mate.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice, sensible answer from a sensible bloke. But yeah, the sleep thing, it's not something that really bothers me yet. I know it's a big issue for you, but I don't really have massive issues with sleeping for long periods. Learning new things, I mean, that's something that I try to do a lot, is always kind of like learn new things. New experiences, I've experienced enough. And making new friends, people are bastards. I hate people in general, so I don't want any more friends. I don't want the friends that I've got. They're tossers.
Yeah, pretty much, mate. I saw a T-shirt online the other day that said, "I like pro wrestling and maybe 3 people," and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
Yeah.
Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter, good friend of the show. He says, "Worst thing about getting older is old sports injuries becoming prolonged joint issues." I can 100% get on board with that.
Not even sports injuries, just any injuries.
Yeah, definitely. Best part of getting older is growing out of giving a shit what people think and the liberation that goes with it. I am 100%
it's so
on
good.
that.
It's so good not giving a flying fuck about what anyone thinks. It's
100%. 100%. I mean, we get a reoccurring theme with that through some of our responses here, but I'm totally on board with that. And I wish I'd learned that earlier, just not to care. And I look at my kids now and I see them worrying about, does this look all right? And am I going to get picked on because I like this? Or, all the usual kind of, I suppose, nervousness and paranoia about certain things, about being that age and growing up. I wish I could I do tell them, but I wish they'd take it on board and just realize that it doesn't matter. Sod everyone else. Do whatever makes you happy,
Correct. That's something I wish I learned as a teenager. Certainly.
Yeah. Maybe in that case, I wouldn't have been sat on my own playing chess in my bedroom if I'd been more like that. I might have bumped into more wrestling fans or something, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe
you nerd.
Nerd. Dan continues. Best and worst thing on my current age is I'm old enough to know better and young enough to do it anyway. So just on that balance, isn't it?
It's knowing the distinction of what I'm doing is wrong or idiotic, but it looks fun, so I'm probably just going to do it.
Yeah. As far as aging goes, Dan continues, I'm terrified of hereditary illnesses creeping in. Yeah, I can understand that.
Cheers for bringing the vibe down, Dan. There.
Yeah.
But I do understand that.
But he says he is looking forward to being old and annoying people by pretending to be deaf.
Just like so.
Oh, for God's sake. I was genuinely devastated earlier that I might need hearing aids and I'm losing my hearing.
And now you can't wait to get them.
And now I'm just like, everyone's taking the piss. And I realised that people I have in my life are a shower of bastards. Handy T1TF on Twitter. He says here, he is 55. So the best part is he's seen a lot. And he then continues, he just doesn't give a fuck. Looking forward, I'll probably continue to give even less of a fuck. Again, it comes back to that thing of just not caring what people think. When you're older, you realise it's not important.
And at 55, he's still got goals. His goal is to not give less of a shit than he gives now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
It's important to have aims.
I can't fault that. I cannot fault that at all.
Handy,
and plus, for 55 years
respect.
old, he looks amazing. I wish I looked that good at 42. Never mind at 55.
You're only 42.
Fuck you. Oh no, wait! I've got some sign language for that.
Yeah, great. Steve-O on Twitter at Total Steve-O. He says here, experience and knowledge is being best from getting older. Responsibilities the worst. Yeah, 100%. Work being forefront of everything that is worst. He says, to be honest, he's 36 and he feels 26. Maturity wise, even from a gym standpoint, I'm stronger and fitter. The way I treat exercise is more appropriate than when I was younger. Yeah, I can get on board with that because I suppose you're older, so you're a bit more knowledgeable.
Yeah, he's taking that as a very sensible approach. Me too. I mean, especially the exercise and the gym, not so much. In terms of maturity wise, I'm certainly not 42. I am more like a petulant 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah, I think I'm the same, mate.
But yeah, Steve-O living his best life. That's great to hear. Yeah,
without a doubt. Steve continues. A friend of his reminded him of one that he realised about getting old, and Mags highlighted this: not giving two ups about people. He can name about 5 or 6 people he genuinely cares about. Again, it's coming to that thing of just not being bothered, isn't it? Just learning that what people's opinion of you, I suppose, is just not the be all and end all, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And like we've said a couple of times now over this episode, I wish I'd learned to not give a shit about what other people thought way sooner, because it would have made me a happier person, because you are comfortable in your own skin, I suppose.
Yeah, without a doubt. We have a message from my mum. This is via WhatsApp.
The worst thing about being old is having a deaf son.
Oh my God. My mum says, more confident as you get older. She never explains herself or makes excuses now. She'll just say no to something she doesn't want to do. She can now spot an idiot a mile away. Learned to judge characters of others and avoid twats. So that's lovely from my mother there.
Classy as always, Mrs. P. Yeah, that's amazing.
She says, looking at the standpoint of her age now, she's so happy that she has her health. She would tell her younger self to exercise more. She does now anyway, but would like to have done more from an earlier age. My mum is also massively into dancing, and belly dancing and all this sort of stuff is her massive passion. She says here, she would tell her younger self to start belly dancing much sooner. She started at 49, and I've had that conversation with my mum before, that she's found something she's really passionate about and loves and enjoys. It's a massive part of her life now, and she wishes that she started that earlier because she has such a love for it now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like you said, she's found something that she's really enjoying. And I dare say there are people who are craning their necks and whispering in corners and stuff like that. But yeah, she don't give a shit and she's enjoying herself. That's absolutely amazing.
That's the best thing about it, mate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Andy at Bang Bang Podcast on Twitter. He says the bad bits about being old, in brackets 43. It says footballers being young enough, old young he's put here, but yeah, footballers being young enough to be your son and managers being younger than you. Yeah, I get that as well. There was
Ryan Mason was Tottenham manager and he was like 27 years old or something like that.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it?
Ridiculous.
And it's like, there was a game on I think it was BT Sport or something like that a couple of months back, and I could remember it was an Italian game, and I could remember both managers as players, but making their debuts for their clubs.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. That ages you.
Or
when linking it to wrestling, when you see a wrestler return and you think, Jesus Christ, they look old. And then you remember that you watched them debut.
Yeah.
Like that Edge, for example. I remember vividly watching Edge debut. and now he looks old as fuck, and he's been wrestling for 20 odd years. It's scary.
And Cena as well. Cena coming back, and you think we can all remember that ruthless aggression, slapping Kurt Angle moment, and
now he's got a dad haircut.
Yeah, Kurt Angle himself. I mean, Kurt Angle debuting, and then in and out the company, going to TNA, and then going to the Hall of Fame and retiring. And now it's like, man, we can remember. I was like 15, 16 when Kurt Angle debuted.
Yeah, I mean, we've just got to the period on a change of in attitude of the debut of The Rock as Rocky might
right, die Rocky die and all that sort of stuff.
We've not even got to that point yet. We've literally we've covered Survivor Series 1996 where he makes his in-ring debut, and and he's basically the sole survivor, and he's now totally done with wrestling. He's the biggest movie star in the history of the world, and he's potentially going to be president of the United States, and it makes you feel old as shit.
And we can just remember the blue ribbons hanging off his neck and stuff.
and the curly kind of permy hairdo as well.
If he gets made to be if he gets in and he is president of the United States, if he ever runs and gets voted in and so on, I hope he's sworn in as president of the United States in his Rocky Maivia gear with the ribbons and everything. I reckon that'd be fantastic.
Well, I mean, linking it to the match that we're going to cover in a little while, he's actually on the show of WrestleMania, and he has a sit down interview with Jennifer Flowers, and he talks about what he'd do if he was president. He needs to follow up. He needs to follow up on those promises of being president. First of all, he wants to be called the ruler, not the leader.
Doesn't want homeless people sleeping on his lawn.
On his freshly cut lawn. That is absolutely awesome. And they need to realize that he's also the judge and the jury. And if he was the jury, it would be a hung jury.
Oh, so good. So good. Andy from Bang Bang Podcast continues. And I get this one 100%. Cultural references being 20 years out of date to most of his co-workers. And the best bit about being 43, doesn't have to worry about losing his hair because he's quite famously already bald. And
he was bald from like 12 years old.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
No, I mean, I'm maybe guessing there a little bit, but I think he's been bald since he was like pretty young.
Oh, okay. Is he in the bath tonight? Is he joined us, or is he busy recording again on a Monday?
Yeah. I'm actually recording with him on Wednesday for his little Christmas episodes. So I'm looking forward to that. What time are you
recording with him, Max? I'm supposed to be recording with him Wednesday.
8
in the morning.
8 in the morning. Jesus Christ, no. 8 in the evening.
Oh, okay. I like that. Is it, Andy? I see. He says,
Have you been...
He's told me he wants to record in the morning. Yeah, because he's speaking to you in the evening. Like that, is it? I see. No worries, mate.
Apart. We'll just take over the show otherwise.
Yeah. The cultural references being 20 years out of date, I get as well. So, I mean, I still know it's something that me and my sister both do. When I leave the house to go to work or go to the shop or anything like that, I'll say, "Catch you later, Bill and Ted," from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. My kids have no idea what I'm doing. They've got no clue whatsoever what I'm saying.
Dad's being mental again.
Pretty much. Millwall Chris on Twitter at Millwall Chris 1. And this is going to bring the mood down a little bit. I apologize, but he says, "I'm dreading dying." So I don't know why we're laughing at that. We shouldn't really be laughing at that.
The fear of death has got to be like, I mean, at Chris's age, it's got to be the forefront of his mind.
Well, maybe. He says, "I'm dreading dying, to be honest. No one can tell us what actually happens when we die, so we can't prepare for it." That's a whole different podcast, isn't it? What happens when you die?
I mean, he redeemed himself with his next comment where he says, the best thing about his current age is it's only 2 years before the big 50 piss up. But woof, Chris, woof, Jesus.
Yeah, why? We have a couple more that both came in via WhatsApp, Magsy, so there's no more on Twitter, I don't think, unless there's any I've missed.
I don't think that you have. I think you've nailed them all.
Okie doke. We have from the magnificent Matt Willis at the Matt Attack UK on Twitter. He says here via WhatsApp, because Twitter doesn't have enough characters. The best thing about growing older is being able to get on the roller coasters you couldn't when you were little. Yeah, I mean, I'm not one for roller coasters or rides or anything like that, because I don't like heights. I don't, all that sort of thing don't interest me. But I appreciate there's a big audience for that, isn't there?
I mean, I don't think a roller coaster's age restricted, or is it more like size? I think it's more size than age.
Yeah, but I suppose people do get bigger as they get older, Maxie, don't they?
Yeah, I understand that.
So.
But I'm just thinking of like someone who stayed small their whole life, and they still couldn't go on it. So you're mocking that poor person. They've got a solitary tear rolling down. He's only 12 and he's got on that ride. I'm 54 years old and I'm on the teacups.
Oh, like that little dude who did that game show that I hate because the little dude's on it. What was that? Do you remember?
Is it Warwick Davis?
That's it. I keep going to call him Ricky Warwick, but that's not him at all, is it?
That's not even a real person, I don't think.
Yes, it is.
You're on about Ricky Berwick.
No, Ricky Warwick is the lead singer for he was in Thin Lizzy.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in Thin Lizzy after Phil Lynott died. Okay. And he sings for Black Star Riders, and he was in The Almighty. The Almighty, a bloody great band. Yeah, Ricky Warwick's great. My wife loves Ricky Warwick because he wears like leopard print guitar straps and has long hair and sort of. So my wife thinks he's wonderful.
Well, that's certainly not Warwick Davis.
No, because I like Ricky Warwick and I don't like Warwick Davis.
That's mean. So mean.
Why is it mean? Why can I not? Why is it mean?
You can dislike him, but it's mean that you dislike him for the reasons that you dislike him, I suppose.
No, I've never once said it's because of those reasons, and I'm going to skirt around this so very, very carefully. I'm not getting cancelled over hating small people, no chance. But there's just something about him. I just find him such a smug little bastard as well. Do you know what I mean?
A smug what bastard?
Yeah, I'd say that about anyone, like smug. Oh, anyway, ladies and gents, it's been a good one. Chain wrestling's gone a year. In that time, we've accused the Chuckle Brothers of potentially being nonces, allegedly. Mm-hmm. We've made jokes about people passing away, but it was my comments about the little person that is Warwick Davis that has finally got the show took off the air.
Brilliant.
But if everyone stays quiet and doesn't talk about it, we might get away with it. Matt continues. The worst thing about getting older is that you start aching and little niggly injuries start popping up. Yep, we had that earlier on, didn't we? And he's so right there. The best thing about being his current age is that he's been able to acquire a plethora of knowledge about his favorite sports and general knowledge in general.
Okay. Interesting, because he never shows that on the volley. Never shows any of that knowledge.
I think it's best that I don't ever comment on what Matt Willis says about football. I will move on.
You two will never agree on football.
No, that's not true. We will agree when he speaks sense. Mags will tell you he has a lot of he knows a lot of obscure shit. What I'm looking forward to the most about growing older now is spending the rest of my life with Chris. Nothing comes close to that, and that's brilliant. Oh, of course, the thing I'm dreading is when the day comes that is guaranteed. The only day that is guaranteed in life comes, which obviously I'm assuming he means is eventually passing away. What would he tell his 18-year-old self? He says, "Simple,
is he
really."
Writing a book? Jesus Christ, Matt!
I've had to scan on to the second screenshot of the conversation. Just so I thought I transitioned from the one to the second one smoothly there. I thought by my standards that was a smooth transition, but now because I've stopped to talk to you, I fucked it up because I've lost my place.
Brilliant.
What would I tell my 18-year-old self? Simple, and this is brilliant as well. This is awesome by Matt. Life gets better. You'll have a great job. Your family will blossom, and you'll get a whole new family of friends from podcasting. I'd also tell myself that your dad is wrong. Not only is watching wrestling and playing video games not a waste of time, but you'll travel the world because of watching wrestling and playing video games. Oh, and one day you'll meet an amazing guy. It won't be for a few years, but he's definitely worth the wait. So I think that is lovely. by Matt there, and I thought that was fantastic.
And now let's ruin it by giving our horrible takes on age.
I have
but that was
one
brilliant,
more.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Really just lovely sentiments at the end there. I have one more, and it is from my youngest daughter, Charlie, when asked about what is she looking forward to or dreading about getting older. Bearing in mind she's 12 in a couple of weeks. She's still only just 11 now. She says she's dreading about getting old because getting old means paying for everything. So I can understand that.
She is wise beyond her years.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. But there we go. So thank you so much to everybody who has sent in some thoughts on growing older, age, whatever. It's been great hearing everyone's viewpoints and so on. Magsy, what about yourself, bud?
Yeah, a lot of the problems I have with being old as fuck have been covered. Things like previous injuries really kind of like affecting you in your older days. I mean, aching, just like joints aching is one of the worst things ever. Not seeing your kind of your life being responsibilities like everywhere for bills and making sure people have food and clothes and their house, all that kind of bollocks.
So selfish, aren't they?
Yeah. And you work for all that and then you get nothing in return. But there is some good things, and a lot of them have already been covered. Stuff like not giving a shit about what people think, not doing stuff to please other people and to get like the approval of other people. That's something, if you're young now, learn that quickly, because you will try and appease people who essentially you shouldn't give a shit about, because their opinion means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. And you do well to learn that the only people you should be pleasing are you and your close family and friends, and that's it. Another thing is learning, like your mum said, how to spot an idiot, how to spot somebody who is disingenuous. That's one thing that getting older really gives you. You spot these clowns a mile off, and you do your best to avoid them. But yeah, and kind of like going off Steve-O's point of having like a core of people who you genuinely care about. That's another great thing. When you're young, you seem to have a huge group of people who you think you're going to be your group for the rest of your life, and they're not. They really are not. So cherish those really close friendships that you build up. And like Steve said, there's about 6 he has as a for people who give us a shit about. I'm probably a little bit more than that, but there's a small core of people whose opinion I actually do care about, and who I would essentially talk me off the ledge, I suppose, when it comes to decisions and thoughts that I'm having. And I would take their opinion way over anybody else. So definitely, as you get older, you'll learn whose opinion means the most.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know if there are any other kids in the chat or anything like that, but take all that on board if you are, definitely. Things that annoy me, Maxie, about getting older is the obvious thing. I can't hear anything anymore, apparently.
That's never not going to be funny. Just making you aware now, it will forever be funny.
Brilliant. I suppose getting up in the night for a wee, that drives me mad. You know, especially when it's cold, because I'm wide awake then. I get back into bed. I guarantee you it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's not late enough to think, oh, sod it, I'll get up anyway. But at the same time, it's not early enough to be, I'm not fully asleep yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it just knackers my whole night.
As someone getting older, I piss like a camel, like all the time. No, I'm not literally sat. No, but I mean, they don't. But when they do, it's for a long ass time, because they've got plenty to get rid of. And that's how I am now.
So you don't go very often, but you go a lot.
No, I do go often and a lot.
But you just said camels don't go often.
Oh, listen, pedantic. Just I pee.
I don't understand the point you're trying to.
Jesus Christ! I pee a lot. The point I'm trying to make is
I pee a lot.
I
There we
pee
go.
a lot.
That's a t-shirt. Yeah, I suppose the niggly injuries and I did my knee and that's an operation on that from football. I did the ligaments in my other ankle from football, and I notice now that when it's cold, I feel it when I'm walking up the stairs and so on. And it's just like, man, I heard those things so many years ago. Why is this going to happen now?
Yeah.
But the big thing for me, and this is a huge thing for me, I'm not embarrassed to be a wrestling fan anymore because I'm older. Whereas when I was a kid, I used to keep it a secret because I was very much under the impression people would laugh at me for it, especially as I got older as a wrestling fan as well. It almost got worse as I got older before it got much better. And a big part of that is down to my wife. She basically doesn't give a rat's ass about people knowing she's a wrestling fan. And that's rubbed off on me. And it's changed. It's changed my life. I don't give a shit. So that's something else I suppose I've got to thank my good lady for. So the list is endless.
Whereas my wife can't stand wrestling.
Can't stand you.
So yeah, win-win for her, I suppose.
Oh, there we go. What have we got in the chat, Mr. Mags, before we move on?
Going all the way back, we've had plenty of action in the chat. Conor McCabe saying in the States you need RD no matter what age. You could be 60 and you will still have to show an RD. Millwall Chris said he once got RD'd when he was trying to get into the cinema to watch Good Morning Vietnam, age 15. Now that's not something you want to put on your CV. I got RD to go and watch Good Morning Vietnam, but they managed in the same a day later to get into a nightclub. Brilliant.
Nice.
Yeah. FIFA Connor in the chat. Hello, sir. Welcome back. And he's already chipped in to say, to be fair, I've never given a fuck about people's opinions because I detest people. Yep.
Fair enough.
Pretty much the same. Marker from Devoid saying he's just popping in to say hello. So hello, Mags.
Hello, sir.
Connor agreeing with you that chess is class. I mean, I don't mind chess. I just think when you were a teenager playing chess on your own, that's a bit.
Yeah, but I was like 13. It weren't like I was a teenager ready to go out and start chasing girls and going to the pub just yet. I mean, that didn't happen until I was, I don't know, 15 or something. Do you know what I mean? So, do you know?
You stood muffin. Sharon saying, yep, we're all assholes. Connor comes back saying everybody's goal should be to give less of a fuck. Yeah, and you are wise beyond your years, young sir. That's absolutely should be the goal. You're only 42. Fuck you. This needs to be a t-shirt. FIFA Connor says The Rock wants to be a ruler. Why is he going to measure things? No, I think he means ruler as in he rules.
Yeah, we asked for the bad jokes last week, didn't we?
Yeah, you've ruined that, Connor. I take back everything I've said good about you now. So Andy saying The Rock won't run. He's too busy. New football league plus movies. It would be a downgrade. But imagine having on your CV wrestler, football league owner, movie star, president. That's a big move, and he'd be one of the most beloved presidents as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So Millwall Chris confirming Andy went bald after he met Steve Beaton. Brilliant.
Andy ended up pregnant.
He certainly did.
Oh, the draw. Sorry, Magsy, the draw for the World Darts Championship was done literally just before we came on stage. And Steve Beaton has been drawn against the young blonde lass in the first round of the world.
Is it Fallon Sherritt? Whatever.
Yeah. So how's that going to work? Because she's just going to, her entrance music's going to play. She's going to climb up on stage. Boom, pregnant.
I mean, she's got 9 months to recover, I suppose. Well, not recover.
I think Steve Beaton's raw sexuality is an unfair advantage when he's playing ladies, to be fair.
Yeah. Well,
the Darts Commission should look into that.
And to be fair, she's a banging darts player as well. You don't think that she is?
I guess I've seen her play occasionally. I don't watch as much darts now as I once did. So
which is good. I think she made it to the quarterfinals a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Scottish Danny. Even I'm recording with him on Wednesday too, so he's triple timing us, sir.
He's just a podcasting whore.
We all should.
Whore.
We should all just no-show his episodes or show up at different times, so we'll all work between us. Yeah.
Is he? Oh, that's what we got to do, man. Because he's not in the chat, obviously, so he's not going to hear this until
so we jump in.
We've recorded.
We all jump in and bombard him.
Yeah. So if you're on Skype at 8 o'clock with him, just invite us all to join.
Yeah. Just add everybody. Just add everybody in. Yeah. We'll wreck his Christmas. We'll absolutely wreck his Christmas.
I think that's a bit harsh. I just thought we might jump on his podcast, but all right. If you're that committed to the cause.
Millwall Chris saying Warwick Davis is only a small problem to him. It's just these jokes mocking little people are beneath you all. Stop it.
Do you know the best thing about this whole Warwick Davis nonsense? I get to play some Almighty with Ricky Warwick on the audio version later in the week. Loving it.
I hope we get a copyright claim. So, handy. The difference between being old and young is usually that sleep is more important than sex. Well, maybe. Hashtag RP a lot. That's brilliant. Is playing chess by yourself a metaphor?
No, it's not.
Yeah, FIFA Connor agrees, says no. And he's actually said he's going to the World Darts Championship. So that's cool.
Yeah, steer clear of beaten.
It's always a massive party when you go and watch darts live.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. And Scottish Daddy says deal. So I think we should all get a little Twitter DM group going and just like bombard and like all turn up to all 3 recordings.
The audio version of this show comes out like Wednesday morning, like midnight, Tuesday going into Wednesday. I'm gonna have to delay it until after we've done this. Is it worth delaying our recording just in case he listens?
I think he's a bath listener though, isn't he? So he'll probably listen at night in the bath.
Oh yeah, okay.
But yep, that's the chat all caught up with.
Fantastic stuff. Before we move on to our actual wrestling topic, Magsy, should we let people know what next week is? If they don't know already.
I mean, technically, it's actually gone past.
Has it?
Yeah. I mean, you saying in the chat it's maybe 54, but either way, it's essentially the birthday of chain wrestling.
Yes.
From the early days, releasing audio on Visionaries Global Media to now the YouTube behemoth that we are. It's been when Sam mentioned that it's a year since we started. How quick has that year gone?
Yeah, without a date.
It's mental. And I was talking to Ori yesterday. And we dropped episode 26 of A Changing Attitude already. So that's 6 months old. It's amazing how quickly the time goes when you're having fun doing something.
I got that as well from A Changing Attitude. It was I don't know, it was last week or the week before maybe. But I put it on when I was getting on the bus, saw the number of the episode and just assumed, I must have missed some because there's so many already. And I went back and I've listened to them and I was like, wow, that's gone so fast.
Yeah. And that's testament to us putting out a really interesting product. The fact that you've listened to them all week by week and assumed that you've missed them because you've been so entertained by them. So I really appreciate that. But
the 2nd of December was the date the first episode of Chain Wrestling dropped. And so next week kind of is the right week for it to be the closest episode we're doing that's going to fall close to the birthday, I guess. So we're going to be doing all silly, daft anniversary type thingamies. We may look back at some old shows and some old jokes and so on, or old moments and so on. I'm going to have a little look through the archives, as they call it, this week and refresh a few people's memories about some stuff that happened in the last year.
Oh, Jesus. I can't remember what we recorded about last week.
Nah, not me, mate. I got to bring up the little spreadsheet tonight. But it's been for me an absolutely fantastic time. I've loved this. I loved doing SJP, and I'm really enjoying doing the waiting room. But this has took over for me. This is my number one show now. This is my priority. I absolutely love this, and I love it because of the interaction on Twitter, because of the interaction in the chat there. I look forward to Monday nights so much. So the fact that we're where we are now from where we were a year ago, thank you to everyone. Just thank you to everyone.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's probably fifth best.
Yeah, probably.
No, it's not. I have.
You wanker.
I love doing this show. I think we've said before when we made the jump from just releasing audios to doing it live, we were nervous and we didn't think it'd do as well. We were worried that we won't get the interaction. It's blown up. It's absolutely blown up. And we're under no illusions. We know we're not like a cultaholic or a what culture, and we are definitely doing this because it entertains us. But the fact that you guys have all come along on this journey with us, and you've made the show a million times better than it was at the beginning, and we massively appreciate it. And here's to year 2 of Chain Wrestling.
Yes, so you'll find out later on that our choices for where we go are going to be sort of anniversary influenced, and next week we're going to have a few bits and bobs that way as well. But that, Magsy, is next week. That is when the show is a year old. It is still 0 old now. Is it? Is that how it was?
Ages are horrific to work out.
Yeah. So, shall we talk a little bit of wrestling, mate?
Yes, we shall.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Before we go any further, I want to just point out that there are some people who just want to watch the world burn. Magsy put forward a ludicrous option last week, hoping that people would vote for Shawn Michaels versus Steve Austin. He put forward Luna Vachon versus, funny how he remembers all his wrestling anniversaries, as my wife says in the chat there. Yes, I can remember our wedding anniversary. It's the 6th of the 6th, 12. We were married. And I can remember that because 6 + 6 = 12. See, that's how I remember it. That's it.
Jesus.
So, works out well. Magsy put forward a ludicrous selection in the hope that my selection would win. And yes, it did.
I did it at first, to be
fair.
No,
very true, yeah.
At first, it was a genuine pick. It was only after you essentially went with the pick that I was going to put forward. But I thought that maybe we traveled down this path, this kind of like wrestling timeline enough. I didn't want the CWF to get kind of frustrated, so I thought I'd pony up something different. And then you went, no, let's carry on. So I wanted yours to win, so I tried my best to sway the votes by putting up a horrific less than 3 minute match between two people who shouldn't really be wrestlers, and they nearly fucking won.
There were people voting for that nonsense, Magsy.
Ridiculous. What are you people doing?
They're just blatantly trying to stitch us up, aren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Of course. But there we go. What actually won? Thankfully, thank the wrestling gods that this actually won. Otherwise, we'd be out your hair by 10:05, wouldn't we? That's
done by now.
Yeah. The main event of WrestleMania 14, I suppose, the beginning of a new era, passing of a torch to a degree. The WWF Championship match. The champion, Shawn Michaels, defending against the 1998 Royal Rumble winner, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Mike Tyson is also there involved. Magsy, I don't know how recently you watched this back before this episode of Chain Wrestling. What were your general thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to watch this back quite a lot. I'm a massive Austin fan. He was kind of like pivotal in my in the peak of my wrestling fandom. So this is a match I'll revisit quite a lot, maybe once every couple of years or so, just to kind of go down that Austin rabbit hole. But this is still for me one of the best matches of my time as a wrestling fan. Not in terms of in ring, but just because my guy was finally at the top of the table.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I suppose the story and the emotion can sometimes carry you in the same way as watching a sort of 5-star classic can carry you potentially.
Yeah.
I was all about Austin in this time frame as well. Massive Stone Cold fan. But Shawn was always my guy, as people know. But I was brought up in the storyline, mate. I got carried along in the hype of Austin, and I wanted him to win this match, and I wanted him to win the title back then. And watching it back and seeing the video packages building up to the match that WrestleMania sort of showed before the ring entrances, you kind of get caught up in that same feeling again, don't you? With the promotional packages and so on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is to do with the fact that they got Mark Tyson involved. This to me feels like a fundamental kind of change in where wrestling was headed. Before we see Mark Tyson, this was always a niche thing. Wrestling was always kind of, even in its heyday, it was still seen as a niche product. But Mark Tyson was massive. Obviously, former boxing world champion. All the issues that he'd had with the law and things like that. But he was a mainstream star. So to have him involved in this match meant that this was the biggest WrestleMania ever. It was just ginormous, and you needed two wrestlers who could carry that kind of anticipation. And I think with having Shawn, who was always a great worker, and Austin, who was becoming the biggest star in the world, you had all these kind of like melting pot of things that made this just an outstanding, energetic main event to something for you to really get your teeth into. And yeah, it still blows me away today just how huge this felt.
Yeah, and I suppose it's looking at the sort of different time frames and different, I suppose, eras, for want of a better term. You look at, say, the golden era of the 80s and so on, and then you look at WrestleManias now in the stadiums and the big light displays and the fireworks and all the razzmatazz you get now. This time frame, so WrestleMania 14, 15, I suppose 16 will come into it as well. It all felt, even though it was a huge event, the actual arena itself and the audience and so on, it all felt much smaller and compact. And again, because it was darker as well, wasn't it? And it was very sort of almost in on itself, so to speak.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed from watching it back is things like the set design. Just there now, it's grandiose. It's huge.
Yeah.
But back then it was the entrance ramp was essentially perpendicular with the ring, so the wrestlers had to come out and then go like a 90-degree turn to walk down the aisle to the ring, and it was just a metal frame circle with a curtain and a WrestleMania sign. Now there's themes to the set design. The ramps are ginormous. You see that the wrestlers are sometimes 20 foot above the crowd at the beginning of the ramp to all the way down to the ring. So, I think this, having Tyson involved, that kind of starts the ball rolling into making WrestleMania a must-see event. I mean, it always was in terms of wrestling fans, but I mean, in terms of mainstream media, it was becoming more of a huge kind of global event.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the build to this was so well done as well, because everything was behind Austin. I mean, we looked at the Royal Rumble from 1998 last week, and I suppose a criticism I had of the Rumble was it was so one-dimensional to me anyway, that it was just all about Austin, all about getting him the title shot, all about getting him to WrestleMania. So whereas I think the Rumble suffered from that, to me personally, you're now seeing the benefit of that with the WrestleMania match, because it is still all about Austin, but the build is done so well that it makes it even more meaningful, I guess, that Austin's there. And even when Austin makes his way to the ring, you can see the altar against him, because Triple H is there, Chyna is there, Tyson is there in a DX shirt, and Austin is literally just there on his own, almost peeking around a ring post at one stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you go follow the timeline back even further, where we essentially started this, go to the Montreal Screwjob, that was only 6 months before the point we're at now. So it feels to me that there's another storyline being told in the background here, that McMahon had put all his eggs in the HBK basket, essentially forcing Brett out of the company, and less than 2 months later, that's clearly not working. So we're having to push for Austin to be the Rumble winner, and like you said, it kind of made it look like that this was the Austin show. And then 3 months after the Royal Rumble, we're literally at the show that makes Austin the number one guy in the wrestling world. It's almost like Vince wanted Shawn Michaels to be his number one guy, and then when he realized that perhaps that's not going to be a thing, he had to quickly transition to Austin. Obviously, we know that Shawn had injuries that were plaguing him, but Austin himself had knee and neck problems at this time. So it just, for me, knowing what we know now as wrestling fans, it was just an interesting narrative that Shawn Michaels spent all this time politicking and backstabbing and doing whatever he could to scratch and claw his way to the top for a less than 6 months run before he would essentially be replaced. It's just interesting the way that the wrestling world revolves, I suppose.
Yeah, and I suppose some of the shortcomings in Shawn's run at the top, I suppose, the short period he was actually at the very top of his game now, the problems that he experienced were caused by what it took to get him there as well. Mm-hmm. Yes, you had all the politicking and so on, which obviously caused him to have enemies backstage. Of course it did. But the style of wrestling, the way he felt he had to effectively outwork everybody all the time. Mm-hmm. You see bumps through tables off the ring apron. You see the famous bump off the side of the Hell in the Cell, and the first one they ever had with the Undertaker. Back injuries, the moonsault to the outside, constantly landing on his knees, and so on. That takes its toll. And you go back, I mean, Magsy, you'll know firsthand from the excellent A Change in Attitude as you're sort of plugging your way through some of the dross that is 96. You see Shawn Michaels in 96 doing things that no one else in the business is doing at that point, mm-hmm. and putting his body on the line. And he is by far and away in ring the best thing going at certain events in 96. But it comes at a cost, because he then has to start. He develops, shall we say, a slight, I suppose, dependency issue with certain substances. He has this attitude problem, which again is not helped by his addictions and the paranoia that comes with them. He's also got these injuries that he's taking the drugs for. And the paranoia, again, is added to because of that, because he knows he can't necessarily carry on the way he was before, or he needs to take a break. So it's almost like Shawn fighting tooth and nail to get to where he is. What he had to do to get there is effectively a big part of what kind of cost him, and we don't see him again for 4 years, do we?
Yeah, it's a massive vicious circle. The one thing that he craved for was the thing that essentially put him out of the business for the next 4 years. And you hit the nail right on the head. The fact he had to go all out, he had to be outwork everybody, he had to be the best wrestler, he had to take risks that most other wrestlers wouldn't take, and he essentially put himself at the top of the tree. But he'd limited how long he could stay there with the amount of injuries and the dependency and the kind of politics that he'd caused to get to the point where he was at. So yeah, it's a very interesting tale And because all these kind of like incidents we've looked at in singularity, but when you actually follow the timeline from the screw job to where we are now, it's an interesting story that gets weaved between Brett and Michaels and then obviously Austin, how we finish it. So yeah, it's been a cool little journey that we've gone on here.
Yeah, without a doubt. Something that isn't cool as we move on to the actual match itself is, I think, the DX band. They suck. Let's be honest. The DX theme is fantastic, but
to be fair, you do spot a rogue Jim Johnston in that.
Yes,
band,
yeah, because the rest of the band, they look like they're a shitty bar band playing, and then they've got what effectively kind of comes across like their mad uncle. Or maybe they've their guitarist has got poorly and they've just asked around, and their old geography teacher has said, "Oh, I used to knock out a few chords. I'll come along," because he doesn't look like he fits with the rest of the band at all, does he?
He definitely doesn't fit, and in fact, he tries his best to avoid being on camera a lot.
Yeah, they try their best not to show him.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that band is terrible. There's been very few times where a live rendition of a wrestler's theme music has worked, and this was one of the times it definitely didn't work.
No, Motorhead is the benchmark, mate. It's took away my hearing, but by God, I love him. Tyson is awkward as hell, isn't he? Let's be honest. Whereas he may be the baddest man on the planet and able to knock out anybody, watching him do the DX crotch chop and so on it just doesn't. It's awkward as hell, isn't it? It doesn't. Yeah, exactly, Maxie, exactly. And he also, every now and again, you just want Triple H to give him a nudge and go, "All right, mate, wind your neck in. You know, that'll do. You've done it. You've done it 100 times. Stop."
I think the issue is if you tell Mike Tyson to wind his neck in, he's probably just going to lamp you.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, we've got to remember that he's not long been out of prison, so he was the baddest man on the planet at the time. So it was actually a massive coup that WWE or WWF at the time got him involved. And to have him play along for essentially the 3-month run from Royal Rumble, he was heavily involved in this. You don't normally get a celebrity who sticks around. They normally like one and done, or they might come in for a couple of shots. But he was doing promo working when they were basically out in the crowd, kissing Austin's head when he was tied up in the ropes. Really getting involved there. So for all the things that he's done wrong in his life, you've got to give him props that he was heavily invested in this. Invested.
Definitely. I like the whole way it was done as well, where he's almost tussling with DX in the ring, and they put it his top and reveal the DX t-shirt underneath. I thought that was really well done. Yeah, a really clever reveal. We've got a couple of latecomers to the show as well, Maxie, who should hang their heads in shame.
Recording when they know this is our time. We don't get involved on the Wednesday Day War. So look at that. Yeah, absolute scumbags, but welcome all the same. Dan Griffin.
Absolute scumbags. That's a bit harsh. Why? Oh, dear. Okay. The entrance to the match as well. The way that they walk, we said it for the Rumble contest, didn't we? But the way they walk through, Survivor Series, we mentioned it. The way they walk from the back and the camera follows them, I think that is so cool. I really enjoy that,
Yeah, it adds more gravitas to the match, and then you get Triple H looking at the camera and flipping the bird, which I thought was, that was dickish.
That was a bit try-hard, wasn't it? That was a bit like, it was, look at me, I'm edgy, me.
But what I did really like, and I've made it clear that I had a massive issue with Shawn Michaels and his politicking. Great wrestler, but just couldn't get on board with how much of a conniving wrestler he was. The fact that he says, "This one's for you, Earl," I thought that was a touch of class from Shawn Michaels, especially knowing that he's essentially going to be going away after this. For him to dedicate this match to Earl, who was part of why he was in this match in the first place. If you go all the way back to the screw job, but I think Earl had just had an aneurysm like a couple of days before, and he was in hospital recovering. So for him to do that on his way out is incredibly classy.
Yeah, for someone who, let's be honest, as much as I love Shawn Michaels, was an absolute dick around this time, wasn't he? Let's be fair. You know, the match starts as well. You know, we get the standard kind of feeling each other out and so on, and the famous middle fingers from Austin that makes Shawn's smile disappear, I guess. That's a famous meme now, isn't it? But the first thing I kind of see really is that Michaels takes a backdrop over the top. And he hits hard for someone who's got this back injury. And we don't really know how bad this injury was. It's obviously there because it keeps him out for a while, but he had other issues as well. How bad is the injury when he's working the event is always a bit of a grey area. But you see this backdrop and you think, oh my word, even if he was 100%, that he landed bad, didn't he? That was a stiff bump.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how much, whether you like them or whether you detest them, how much these wrestlers give when it comes to these big shows. If we take him at his word, and I don't really see there to be a reason to not do, his back was absolutely knackered. He was, I mean, we've seen what he's done to his back, so there's genuinely got to be issues there. So for them to go whole hog in this, I've got to give him props. And I actually really enjoyed the start. Shawn Michaels doing his classic Wily, kind of avoiding the attacks, but then just rocking Austin with the jabs. I thought that was brilliant, kind of really frustrating Austin.
Not quite wanting to tie up, wasn't he? And then just sort of,
And then when we do finally get to some action, the crowd just started going wild because it's like, we've got that tease out of the way, we've got those first couple of minutes of feeling out, and now we're at the races. It's happening.
Yeah, we end up with Triple H and China thrown out very early, don't we? Which the crowd again get fully behind. They're over the moon about seeing the back of those two. And then we get Shawn and Austin fighting to the bandstand, don't we?
Just before we get to that, when Triple H was getting thrown out, though, he kind of like backs into Tyson and then turns around as if he's gonna crack Tyson, and he's like, whoa, no, we'll hold off on that. And then they get kicked out, and that essentially sets up for just Tyson in Shawn Michaels' corner.
Yeah, Austin and Michaels end up fighting down towards the sort of corner in the entranceway that you described earlier, Magsy, where the band was playing, and they use a couple of the parts of the drum kit and so on as weapons. So you get the ridiculous line from Jerry Lawler that he could have decapitated him with that cymbal. That's nonsense, isn't it? But he comes out with a lot of nonsense, I guess. You see a few more bumps on the outside, and Michaels goes, when they're back in the ring, Michaels then goes for that sort of flip bump he does, sort of similar to Flair in the corner when he's thrown in. But it's mistimed, and the small of his back hits the buckle very hard. And it's from that moment on, I think you really kind of see him struggling there.
And you hear and see the ring visibly move when he slams in. And again, that shows how much being at WrestleMania means to these wrestlers. The fact that he knows he's losing. He knows he's probably going away for a while, but to still throw yourself back first into that turnbuckle with the power that he did. I've got to give him props again for that.
Yeah. There's shortly after this, Shawn ends up on the apron, and Austin literally just punches him. I mean, Austin's punches always looked fantastic anyway to me, especially considering there was always the comparison between he and The Rock, and The Rock's punches always look like trash to me. So maybe that helped Austin, I don't know. But Austin's punches look good. Michaels throws himself off the apron and lands face first on the announce table from a punch. And it looks so real. it looks so realistic, and there was just added so much to literally just Austin throwing a punch, and I think that was a really well done moment.
Yeah, and then if you compare this to when Shawn Michaels faced Hogan, where he was overselling, this was right on the line of being perfectly sold. Like you said, the fact that it makes Austin's punches look absolutely brutal, but it could have easily gone to the point of ridicule. But it didn't. It skirted that line, and it made Austin look legitimate.
Yeah. You see Shawn is very much, he's not moving well at this stage now, is he? He's moving quite gingerly when he's just trying to walk. Again, we've got to take it at face value. He's struggling, but he wasn't the most honest individual in the world at this stage, but we knew he had back problems anyway. And then we see him really wince just from a snapmare, don't we? He really has a look of anguish on his face just from a snapmare, where you wouldn't expect that to be the reaction from such a simple move. So maybe that is causing him grief there as well. Before we
I think every single move was starting to really kind of play on Shawn Michaels. Stuff like a simple thing like punches, drop kicks, even like when he goes for the baseball slide, stuff like that. You can see him visibly wincing. That this is massively painful,
and it all doesn't quite look right, does it? Not like he's holding back. I'm not trying to sort of say that. I mean, you have to forgive me whilst I search for the words, but it's almost like it's not. The pain is restricting him to the point where he just literally doesn't have the mobility to do what he needs to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. It really does.
We end up with Shawn Michaels applying a figure four, which I always get a kick out of, being a big flare mark, and sit there in my front room wooing away. But then we see Shawn grabbing the ropes, and the old trick, the old heel trick of pulling the ropes behind the referee's back to add extra torque, I suppose, to the move. And this is where I sort of look at it and go, okay, how bad is your back, mate? Because that would hurt a lot. If your back was that bad when you're walking, you're bouncing up and down on the top. I mean, I've had back problems. I slipped 2 discs about 10, 12 years ago. It's horrific. You can't breathe. I'm not an athlete by any stretch of the imagination. Of course I'm not. But at the same time, I look at this guy who's supposed to be in as much pain as he is. And yes, he's full of drugs as well. Of course he is. But then there are other moments I look at and I'm like, okay, would that be as comfortable looking as it is if it was that bad? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, but these guys are still trying to make it look like a match. And to be fair, Austin's not in the figure four for that long. I think if Shawn's back wasn't giving him so much grief, that would have probably lasted a little bit longer. But yeah, I do see the point that you would take those like little bits out of the game, I suppose. But he's still got to be the heel in the match.
Yeah, totally. And I didn't realise that it came as quick as this. We pretty much get the ref bump straight after that, don't we? We get a sleeper applied. And
$1 million dream. Shout back to the ringmaster.
The ringmaster, the $1 million champion.
$1 million man. and things like that though, that to me felt like this was Shawn taking a breather and kind of like trying to at least get himself through the next few minutes as pain-free as possible, because he'd been absolutely just destroying his back in this match up to this point.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. This to me is a turning point with Shawn in the match, and it's not something I really think I've seen. As big as a Shawn Michaels fan as I am, I've seen so many of his matches. I've never seen him look, I suppose spent. I've never seen him look like he's got nothing left. But here, after the referee bump from the sleeper, the $1 million dream, and so on, he looks spent. He looks like he's done.
Yeah, and then after the sleeper, we're seeing him being whipped into the corners over and over again, and every time you see him almost crying in pain. back watching this as in my younger days, you just think, yep, it's him selling the moves, selling the match. But this is him in massive amounts of pain. It really it gets to the point where it looks uncomfortable, knowing what we know now, that this puts him out of the business for essentially 4 years. Knowing what he's putting himself in, you're just wincing along with him. It's quite jarring to watch.
Yeah, definitely. There's a moment where he's sent to the corner at one stage, and he just kind of not even crumples. You know what I mean? Where a boxer's legs go and they just kind of crumple down. It's similar to that, but not quite. It's almost like just exhaustion, and he just kind of just falls in a way.
Yeah. And then when Austin goes to help him up, he has to essentially grab the ropes to help pull himself up. Yeah, because if your back starts to go, your legs are going to start to go.
Yeah, exactly. We then get a few more moves from Michaels and Austin. Before the flying forearm is an example. Because Michaels, that flying forearm is quite a big part of his arsenal, but this one's almost like a walking forearm. He almost he kind of hops into it.
It reminds me of, if you remember, the Mankind and Undertaker Hell in a Cell, and both Mankind and Undertaker have said that's easily the worst choke slam that the Undertaker's ever pulled off at the top of the cell when Mankind is choked through the roof.
Yeah.
Because Mankind's essentially his foot doesn't leave the floor, and that's what this reminded me of. It was a flying forearm, but Shawn Michaels essentially didn't fly. It was literally just a forearm because he didn't have the power in his back to be able to do it. But then afterwards, he's still able to do the kip up, although the camera missed it. So it would have been interesting to see whether he was able to pull that off properly. Maybe it was a missed camera angle on purpose, knowing that Shawn was in so much pain, and then that essentially sets up for one of the most iconic finishes in not only WrestleMania history but wrestling history, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to mention that kip up because it does. You kind of half catch it, don't you? The camera kind of spans across as it happens, and he winces against the ropes after he's done it. But I'm thinking, you couldn't pull off the flying forearm, mate. You couldn't stand up in a corner on your own. But you managed that, and then you straight away went for the top rope elbow drop as well.
Yeah, but he has to do them. Yeah,
I get that, and adrenaline as well. And he's had, like you said, Magsy, he's had that break in the action, I suppose, to sort of regather himself to a degree. But I'm just sort of,
But when you look at him go for the top rope elbow, Shawn Michaels would have been on that top rope way quicker had he not had
fair point.
He struggles to climb the ropes. This is a guy who has put everything on the line, knowing that he's going to lose this match. I've got, for someone who's not been a huge fan of Michaels, I've got to give him props for that. I really have.
I was going to say, this feels like the wrong way round, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Surely, I should be defending Shawn left, right, and centre.
Yeah, but I suppose you're judging him on the fact that you've seen him have way better performances than this. That he has been the showstopper, the icon. I'm more looking at it as I know post fact what he went through during this match, and I'm getting kind of like a bit more of a respect for him because I know he loses. I know that he goes away for a long while after this. But to give your all in that match, he could have easily phoned it in. The Shawn Michaels of this time would have been notorious for phoning it in. So the fact that he doesn't, I mean, the threat of being beat up by Undertaker, I suppose, that would make you
that's motivation, isn't it?
That is a little bit of motivation. But I do give him props for doing all this, knowing that essentially he could cripple himself.
Yeah, no, very true. The finish that you mentioned, Magsy, as well. I think this is so well done because it teases a finish before a finish a finish, I guess.
Yeah.
We have the sweet chin music. Michael's in the corner, stomping away, tuning up the band, as they say. That's missed, and then Austin goes for a stunner, and you're thinking, oh, this is it. But then that stunner is missed. So then Michaels goes for a super kick again, which is then missed. And you're like, oh, thinking it's nearly, you know, and then eventually the stunner is hit. And the stunner's a fantastic move, and obviously Michaels doesn't oversell it, but it still looks great. I think sometimes you get people who take ridiculous bumps off the stunner, and it makes a bit of a mockery of it, where it's funny occasionally. This to me was perfect. It looked like a vicious move that would end the match. It wasn't oversold. It was exactly what you needed for that moment, I think.
Yeah, and what really kind of gives it more gravitas for me is that they only hit one finishing move.
Yeah,
in the whole of the match. Now, if you compare that to modern day wrestling, you get multiple finishing moves in every single match almost.
Yeah.
The fact that that it took one stunner and only one stunner to get the job done just shows that the stunner was a brutal move, and it meant something. It protected the move. It essentially protected Shawn Michaels' sweet chin music as well, because he wasn't able to pull it off.
Yeah, very true. Mike Tyson jumps in the ring and gives a crazy fast count.
Jesus Christ, he was excited to come in, and I mean
he was having a wonderful time, wasn't he?
does that throw legitimacy issues at this passing of the torch, because he was only the enforcer. He wasn't a ref.
I don't know. I don't really know what sort of power enforcers have, I guess.
No, I mean, who argues with him? If Matt Tyson counts a 3 count, who's going to argue with him that that person hasn't won the match?
Well, Sean did try.
Sean tried to argue, and that I thought was a really good way to end it. You give obviously. Looking back, it kind of does feel like that it was Sean must pause style, almost getting the last bit of heat. But for me, I felt that it was a good way to kind of to give Tyson his props for being involved so much that he got that final big shot onto Shawn Michaels. Made Iron Mike Tyson look strong. Austin obviously leaving as the champion. I thought it was a brilliant way to finish the match.
Yeah, it was great. Austin hands Tyson a 316 t-shirt, and I don't know what it is about these kind of situations, but Tyson looks awkward as hell again for a little moment before lying it across Shawn Michaels' face, which I thought was quite good.
Well,
good little touch there.
It's actually him picking up the t-shirt and holding it up that Shawn Michaels realizes that the screw was on. And he's like looking around, and he must have thought, I remember this happening not long ago. I wonder how Brett feels right about now. Yeah, now the shoe is on the other foot. But it was a good touch when he realized, yep, the screw was on, and he's like, Matt, I thought you was my boy. What do you think you're doing? Push and shove. Goes to hit Matt Tyson. Well, actually goes to slap him, and Tyson just drops him with a
lightning quick
right hook. It's a glorious way to end it.
Yeah, and then there's confetti, but in the wrong place, which kind of annoyed me a little bit at the end. But that's nitpicking. That's nothing important. So then, Magsy, where do we rate this out of 10? What are we giving this one, mate?
Oh well, I am going to be massively biased. In terms of in-ring, no Austin match is ever going to be 5-star. Especially this Austin. I mean, his earlier Austin, he was a brilliant technical wrestler, but this Austin was a brawl. It was punch, kick, clothesline, Lufes press, elbow drop on the second rope, stunner. It was essentially the 6 moves of doom. But it's hard to not get invested with this Austin, and knowing what we know about how they were both dealing with injuries, the kind of the atmosphere created with having Matt Tyson involved, you get sucked into it as an event rather than a match. So for that, I've got to say I'm going to rate it pretty highly. I'm going to give this an 8.5.
My goodness, that is high, isn't it? Why?
Jesus.
No, I'm thinking stuff like the Jericho Shawn Michaels ladder match. We both gave an 8 or an 8.5. This isn't as good as that, surely.
In terms of wrestling, absolutely not. In terms of what it meant as a whole package, I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. From my standpoint, I gave the Rumble last week a 6. I got no ambitions to really go back and watch that Rumble again anytime soon. I would happily go back and watch this, though, which obviously the Rumble did its job in setting this up, I suppose. When you look at it collectively, the Rumble is better than looking at it individually, I suppose. But at the same time, because of the injuries hindering Sean a little bit, and this type of Austin character doesn't play to his strengths he had with it when he was younger, Magsy, that you explained there. But still better than the Rumble. I'm going to give it a 7, which is not a bad score. I enjoyed the match. I will happily watch it again. But for me to start hitting 8, 8.5, it's got to be a little bit more sparkle to it, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, it's fine to be wrong. It's absolutely fine to be wrong.
Goodness sake. Where do you want to go next week, my friend? Bearing in mind our self-made stipulation, I suppose.
I mean, we obviously it's going to be the anniversary episode or the birthday episode, so we kind of like spoke about making the picks anniversary themed. There's been plenty of anniversaries in wrestling, so I don't think it was too hard to pick. Now, I was actually going to be a bit mischievous. I was actually going to
not you.
Yeah, shock. But I was actually going to make us go back and review the very first match that we covered on Chain Wrestling. I was very, very tempted to go back to the straitjacket match between Booker and Scott Steiner, but it feels like we've only just watched that not long ago. This year's gone so quick, so I don't think we would do. I don't think we'd have differing enough takes that it wouldn't feel like a little bit repetitive. And you also said that we're going to be involving memories of the past year or so. So
yeah,
I'm sure
I thought that could be a bit of fun. Yeah,
I'm sure it'll get brought up. So I'm actually going with an anniversary, and it's an anniversary actually is one of the biggest bugbears I have actually with the way WWE name their shows. I'm going with WrestleMania, the 25th anniversary, which is essentially WrestleMania 25, which meant that it's the anniversary of Zero, which is just absolutely impossible. This was the 24th anniversary of WrestleMania, and it annoys me.
How can they make that mistake, man? That's so stupid.
Well, because they're idiots. And on that card, one of the biggest matches on the card was obviously Shawn Michaels was heavily involved with his match against The Undertaker. But I'm not going for that match. I'm going for a match earlier on in the card, and actually what actually opened that card. I'm going for the Money in the Bank ladder match with CM Punk, Christian, Finlay, Kane, Kofi, Mark Henry, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin.
Oh, what a mix of talent that is.
I haven't watched it in a long time, but I remember that match being so damn good. Any match you get Shelton Benjamin and Kofi Kingston in, and it involves a ladder stipulation, is always going to be brilliant. So, that's the match I'm going for. The Money in the Bank ladder match from the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania at WrestleMania 25.
Yeah. WrestleMania 25 or 24? 25, that's right, yeah. It confuses me, Max. It confuses me. Oh, what a shite. I mean, Mark Henry in a ladder match as well. I'm intrigued by that. And CM Punk, anything CM Punk to me is fantastic. So, yeah, I'm going to actually go somewhere. I'm not sure if we've been yet, to be honest. I probably should have been more professional and done my research. But
Lex Luger saves the NWA.
No, not Lex Luger. Not Lex Luger.
From Scott Bullet Armstrong.
I'm more of a Wyndham mark than I'm a Luger mark, to be fair. But no, I'm going with the anniversary aspect to be my link. I basically went looking through the dates of the next week when this show comes out, and the anniversary, I suppose, the date of the episode. We can look through and see what's
stealing
on there.
a Bang Bang gimmick.
Well, potentially. And there was a lot of shit, Mags. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of crap. I mean, for a start, there's a set of TV tapings in some part of Texas that had 5 episodes of Superstars taped there in one night. But
That'd be a rough to sit through.
But there was no match longer than 3 minutes, and it was like, and the information you can find on it is things like some of the jobbers, some of the enhancement talent weren't even named. They were that obscure.
Just
so you had
insert
things,
name here or
yes,
jobber.
you had like the information I found said like the Berserker versus unnamed male wrestler was
Wow. I mean, I'm glad they specified male.
and the Berserker won in like 90 seconds and all this sort of stuff. So it was slim pickings really when I was trying to look at it this way with the date. But I found something that I thought would be quite interesting because of modern wrestling and looking back at this particular time as well. And also because we've had this theme over the last few weeks of, Michaels, 98, Montreal, WrestleMania 14 and so on, looking at something completely different to this. Really changing it up. As you said yourself, Max, you don't want the CWF to get bored of what we're looking at. So really trying to change it up. So I actually am going to go back to 2010, early December 2010. It's the anniversary of this show, the week we do our anniversary show, which is the link. And I would like to go to TNA Final Resolution 2010. Okay. There is a link for the match online that I have, so I will put it out there if this wins so people can watch along. It's not going to be difficult to find or you have behind a paywall or anything if it wins. Don't worry about that. But I would like to look at a tag team match, which was under the Full Metal Mayhem gimmick, which basically means anything freaking goes, really. Mm-hmm. And it's the Motor City Machine Guns versus a pair of youngsters that I don't really know what happened to them after this, named Jeremy and Max Buck. And it was for
Generation Me, was it?
That's right, yeah. So yeah, I don't know what ever happened. I don't know where they went from there, but they seem to have a bit about them at the time. Perhaps they're working elsewhere now. Who knows? But yeah, Motor City Machine Guns versus Jeremy and Max Buck from TNA Final Resolution 2010. It scored very highly with old Shagger Dave.
Shock!
Well, yeah,
I am blown away.
So that's something I'm intrigued to go and watch. I would have watched it at the time, but I don't think I've seen it since. And I think it could be a little change in direction for the show, Max. You having a look at that? What do you think?
Yeah, we haven't had the pleasure of covering much TNA, so definitely tune in next week for when we cover Money in the Bank ladder match from WrestleMania 25.
There's not a Barry Windham in sight. So those are your choices for the anniversary episode of Chain Wrestling next week, where I hope everybody will be joining us live if possible. We have the Money in the Bank ladder match that opened WrestleMania 25 with a whole array of talent: Shelton Benjamin, Kofi Kingston, CM Punk, Mark Henry, and plenty of others. Or we have the Full Metal Mayhem tag team title match from Final Resolution 2010 between the Motor City Machine Guns and the Young Bucks, Generation Me, Jeremy and Max, or whatever, which I remember being great, but it's been a long time. So those are your options. They will be out on Twitter on the poll on Wednesday when the audio version of this show comes out. Vote, retweet, get involved, etc., etc., etc. Next week's anniversary show, we're looking at doing a few things that are going to be, just looking back over the year, hopefully. We're going to have a great non-wrestling topic that has always been popular in the past. Something's going to come back there, and hopefully have a great wrestling match to watch as well, Magsy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely tune in next week to join us. You guys, again, are absolutely amazing. You've made this show the pleasure that it is. Me and Sarah love getting together on Monday, just not because we like each other, we can't stand each other.
No,
it's you guys. Yeah, it's you guys. So we always appreciate you guys.
Yeah, 100%. Magsy, where can people find you, your excellent shows, A Change in Attitude, which is well worth checking out, I'm bloody loving it, so and everything else?
If you, after my excellent shows, please point them in my direction because I've never been involved in them. But you can follow me down here on the Twitters at PodfatherMags. as Sam mentioned, I'm involved in the changing attitude with Ori and Tanner. Tanner's currently taking a little bit of a sabbatical to get some laugh things in order. He's got a huge move and a new job, so he's taking some time away to get his schedule sorted. But you can find me involved in that and pretty much everything that we are involved here on Radio Tekkers.
Yeah, I mean, the volley following us tonight, Magsy. Just wait for you to finish coughing your guts up there.
Yeah, brilliant timing. Yep, the volley is coming up in 15 minutes. I'll be refreshing my cup of tea or coffee, and I'll be talking football with young Matt Willis.
Yeah, hang around for that 100%. Check out what's been going on in the Premier League this weekend. You can find me at SJP Words, where you can find links to the Twitter pages and links to my shows, The Waiting Room, Quantum Leap with our good friend Benny, a Doctor Who podcast. Awesome. Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. Awesome. Very close to the end of season 1 now. Comes quite quickly because it's a short season. But then we get into season 2, and season 2 is such a better season of Quantum Leap. It's well worth it. Well worth watching. Then you don't get as many ropey episodes. From what I remember, I may be completely wrong. I hope I'm not. But yeah, The Waiting Room is available via Radio Tekkers as well. A Doctor Who podcast coming up soon that you can follow on Twitter at the Doctor Who Pod. That's
with a certain Mr. Griffin in the chat, I
indeed.
believe.
Really looking forward to that. We're going to be looking at Doctor Who, New Who, Classic Who, etc. in a slightly unique way, I guess, because there's parts of it I've never seen. There's parts of it Dan's never seen. So we're going to be reviewing it as big Doctor Who fans with fresh eyes and so on. So really looking forward to getting involved with that there. And of course, you can follow Chain Wrestling at Chain_Wrestling on Facebook, Instagram, that TikTok thingamy that I did put a TikTok out the other day, Magsy. I did do it. Music playing, a little message and everything. I don't think anyone saw it because, nobody follows us on there. But anyway.
But you can.
You can indeed.
Follow us on TikTok.
Yes, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and most importantly, Twitter at Chain_Wrestling there. This has been another Radio Tekkers production. I'm off now to go and research, how expensive decent hearing aids are, because apparently I'm going to bloody need some. Magsy, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll speak to you again next week, my friend.
See you later, pal. And I forgot the outro. Bye-bye, folks.